Hi everyone, I'm Sarah, and I'm really glad you're here today. I'm not alone in this episode. Alex is here with me, and we're continuing our conversations about words that carry more meaning than we usually realize.
Hi, everyone. And today's word is one that people use a lot, but rarely stop to think about deeply. It's a word we see everywhere on social media, in books, in conversations, and yet it often means very different things to different people.
The word we're exploring today is healing. And what's interesting about this word is that most of us think we understand it until we try to explain what it actually means.
Exactly. Healing sounds gentle and positive, but it's often misunderstood as something simple or quick. In reality, it's complex, uncomfortable at times, and very personal.
So, in this episode, we're not going to rush it. We'll take our time and talk about healing from different angles: emotional, psychological, relational, and even linguistic.
When people hear the word healing, they often imagine something simple and familiar. They think of physical recovery, a broken bone that mends, an illness that fades, a wound that closes. In this version of healing, there is a clear timeline and a clear outcome. Something is damaged, time passes, treatment is applied, and eventually everything returns to normal. This idea feels comforting because it suggests control, order, and certainty. But emotional and psychological healing rarely follows this pattern. There is no clear moment when something breaks, and there is no obvious point where it is fully fixed. Instead of a straight line, healing moves in cycles. Progress may feel strong one week and disappear the next. Old feelings can return unexpectedly, even after long periods of stability. This doesn't mean healing has failed, it means healing is alive and ongoing. Unlike physical injuries, emotional wounds are connected to memory, identity, and meaning. You don't simply recover from them, you learn how to live with them differently. Healing doesn't take you back to who you were before the experience. It slowly shapes a new version of you, someone who carries awareness, caution, and strength at the same time. This is why many people feel confused or frustrated during the healing process. They expect an ending, a moment of closure, or a sense of final relief. When that moment doesn't arrive, they assume something is wrong. But in reality, healing is not about returning to the past. It's about building a future where the past no longer controls your present. Emotional healing is not fast because it involves learning, unlearning, and relearning. It asks you to sit with discomfort, reflect on patterns, and make choices that feel unfamiliar. Some days feel peaceful, others feel heavy. Both belong to the same journey. Healing is not measured by how little you feel, but by how well you understand and respond to what you feel. Understanding this changes how we speak about healing and how we treat ourselves while doing it. Healing is not a destination you arrive at. It is a relationship you develop with your own experiences, one that becomes more balanced and compassionate over time.
Yes, and I think that's exactly where much of the confusion around healing begins. We often hear people say things like, just move on, or leave it in the past, as if healing means forgetting what happened or acting as though it no longer matters. But real healing doesn't ask you to erase experiences. It asks you to understand them. Healing is not about pretending something didn't hurt. It's about learning how to carry that experience in a way that doesn't quietly control your life. Certain memories don't disappear, and they don't need to. What changes is the weight they carry. What once felt overwhelming slowly becomes something you can hold without collapsing under it. Over time, healing reduces the amount of space those experiences occupy inside your mind. They no longer dominate your thoughts or appear unexpectedly in moments that have nothing to do with the past. They stop shaping every reaction, every fear, every decision. You begin to notice that you can respond rather than react, choose rather than protect, speak rather than shut down. This shift is subtle, but powerful. Healing is not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. One day you simply realize that something which once controlled your emotions no longer has the same authority. You still remember it, but it doesn't define you. You still acknowledge it, but it doesn't limit you. And this is why healing is not the same as avoidance. Avoidance pushes experiences away and hopes they stay silent. Healing allows them to exist without letting them rule you. It teaches you that you are bigger than what happened to you, and that your identity is not limited to your pain. When you understand healing this way, it becomes less about getting over something and more about growing around it. You don't lose yourself in the process. You reclaim yourself.
That's such an important distinction to understand. Healing does not erase memory, and it does not rewrite the past as if it never happened. The events remain part of your story. The difference is not in what you remember, but in how those memories relate to you over time. When healing begins, the past often feels loud. Certain memories arrive suddenly and without warning. They carry strong emotional reactions, fear, anger, sadness, or shame, and pull you out of the present moment. You don't choose these reactions. They happen automatically. This is what makes unresolved experiences feel overwhelming. As healing progresses, something subtle starts to change. The memories are still there, but their intensity softens. They no longer rush in with the same force. Triggers don't disappear overnight, but they become quieter, less demanding. Instead of hijacking your emotions, they give you a moment, a small pause where awareness replaces panic. That pause is everything. It's the space where choice becomes possible. Instead of being pulled immediately into old patterns of defense, silence, or emotional shutdown, you begin to notice what's happening. You recognize the feeling. You understand where it comes from. And even if the emotion is still present, it no longer controls your behavior in the same way. Reactions become slower, not because you feel less, but because you understand more. You stop interpreting every situation through the lens of past pain. You respond to the present moment as it is, not as it reminds you of something else. This shift is quiet, but deeply transformative. Healing changes your relationship with the past by giving it a place not in control, but in context. The past becomes something you acknowledge, learn from, and carry with awareness, rather than something that constantly interrupts your present life. This is why healing feels less like forgetting and more like integration. You don't lose parts of yourself, you reorganize them. And in doing so, you gain stability, clarity, and emotional freedom, not because the past is gone, but because it no longer leads you.
And healing is not always visible. From the outside, someone may look fine, functional, even successful. But internally, healing might still be happening. This is why the phrase, "you don't look hurt," can feel so invalidating. Healing is not about appearances. It's about internal safety, emotional regulation, and a sense of stability that slowly rebuilds itself.
Another misunderstanding is thinking that healing only begins after everything becomes calm. In reality, healing often happens while life is still messy. People heal while working, while studying, while caring for others, while facing uncertainty. Healing doesn't require perfect conditions. It happens in imperfect, ordinary moments through reflection, boundaries, rest, and sometimes simply surviving difficult days.
And that's why healing can feel exhausting. People imagine healing as something peaceful, but often it requires effort. You revisit painful memories. You question old beliefs. You notice patterns you once ignored. Healing asks you to be honest with yourself, and honesty is not always comfortable. It can feel like reopening wounds, even though what you're really doing is cleaning them properly.
This is also where language matters. In English, healing is often used in very gentle, almost romantic ways. But in practice, healing involves discomfort, resistance, and emotional work. It involves accepting that progress is uneven. Some days feel strong, others feel fragile, and both are part of the same process.
What I find meaningful about the word healing is that it allows space for time. It doesn't rush you. It doesn't demand immediate results. Healing respects the pace of the individual. It recognizes that each person carries different histories, wounds, and coping mechanisms. That's why healing looks different for everyone, and why comparison often slows it down.
Exactly. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about reconnecting with who you were before certain experiences taught you to protect yourself in unhealthy ways. It's a process of softening without becoming vulnerable in dangerous ways. Strong but not closed. Aware but not constantly on guard.
Healing also means learning how to stay with yourself when discomfort appears. Instead of running from pain or judging yourself for feeling it, you begin to observe it with more patience. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What is this feeling trying to tell me?" This shift is quiet, but powerful. It turns suffering into information rather than punishment. Over time, healing builds trust within you. You learn that emotions, no matter how intense, are temporary, and that you have the capacity to hold them without breaking. You may still feel sadness, anger, or fear, but they no longer define you or control your decisions. They pass through you rather than trap in you. And perhaps most importantly, healing teaches you that moving forward doesn't require closure from the past. It requires honesty in the present. You don't need everything to make sense. You only need enough clarity to choose yourself again and again.
Healing eventually changes how you see yourself. Not as someone who is damaged or behind, but as someone who adapted to survive. What once felt like weakness begins to reveal itself as endurance. You stop measuring your worth by how little you feel and start honoring how much you've carried. There is a gentleness that grows here. You become more careful with your energy, more selective with your boundaries, and less willing to abandon yourself for the comfort of others. This isn't hardness or selfishness, it's discernment. It's knowing that peace is not something you earn through suffering, but something you protect through choice. At this stage, healing is no longer about fixing yourself. It's about belonging to yourself, standing on your own side, and allowing that to be enough.
Healing doesn't announce its arrival. There is no clear moment where you can say, "Now it's done." Instead, it shows up in small, almost invisible ways. In how you breathe through moments that once overwhelmed you. In how you no longer explain yourself as much. In how silence feels less threatening than it used to. Some days you will still feel pulled backward, and that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. Healing allows space for both strength and softness to exist at the same time. It teaches you that progress can include pauses and that rest is not regression. In the end, healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to yourself slowly, honestly, and without punishment.
Healing doesn't mean everything stops hurting. It means the pain no longer decides who you are or how you live. You move forward not because everything is resolved, but because you finally trust yourself enough to keep going.
Thank you for listening to our conversation. Don't forget to subscribe.